what's up everybody? This is Daddy James and I'm back with another video. In this video, we're going to be going over ND filter. You may have noticed that it is like really overexposed right now. And that's why I got this variable ND filter to pretty much help out with that. This video is going to be a co-op between me and Andrew Tech. Mainly because he got a brand new ND filter, and of course I've been using ND filters for a long time. This one right here is a variable ND filter by a company called K&F Concept. Now, you might be saying, well, don't they do cheap ones? Yes, they do cheap ones. They have some cheap ones and they really are really bad. I would not get those. If you're gonna get one from K&F, I would suggest you get the one that is like 60 bucks. This one was 60 bucks and it has like a anti-reflective coat on it. And it is much more better. You don't get light leaks or anything like that. So for a budget ND filter, this, not bad. I did also get the cheaper version, and I tried to do a video earlier with this, and I didn't like the video footage because it was like letting in a lot of light leaks and reflection and stuff like that. So I decided to go ahead and redo this video. It doesn't matter what camera that you have. You can have a Canon, you can have a Sony, another Sony, or another Sony. Whether it's the A6000, well, A6300, or the A6000, or the A7 full frame camera. So it doesn't matter whether you have full frame, crop sensor, or micro four thirds, which that's what we're recording on right now. So it doesn't matter which one you have, you're still going to need an ND filter if you're filming outside. The purpose of having an ND filter is so that you can be able to use those lower apertures and lower shutter and be able to get that nice creamy bokeh background, or shallow depth of field, whatever you want to call it. Okay, before I put it on there, I just wanted to do this little thing so that you can see that it does create a bit of a difference. Anyhow, this is the filter right here, and we're gonna go ahead and put it on this camera and give it a try and see how good it does. Okay, here's what it looks like with the filter on it. As you can see, it looks a whole lot better. Now, there is one thing about this filter that I don't like, is the fact that sometimes it doesn't get dark enough for me. But I normally try to work around with that with using my aperture and my shutter. But this right here has helped out a lot, and the picture quality that you get with it is very good. So there's not anything I can really complain about it. Okay, let's go ahead and look at and see what my f-stop and my shutter. Right now I got my f-stop at a 4.0. And let's say if I want to bring it down a little bit so that I can get more of a shallow depth of field. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it down to 2.8. Right now you can see that I'm overexposed, so let me go ahead and fix that. Okay, now I went ahead and fixed my aperture, and I also fixed my shutter. Now my aperture is at 2.8. Now you might be asking yourself, well, why won't you go lower? Well, it's a sunny day and I don't think you really need to go lower, because the lower you go, it's going to kind of mess up your image some. You'll lose some quality a little bit because it's such a sunny day and you don't need your aperture that low to get a good creamy bokeh background. And also I went ahead and made a shutter at 1/50th. Now, a quick tip for you, if you're doing a hip hop video, your shutter can go higher. You can raise your shutter, because most of the time in hip hop videos there's a lot of fast movements and stuff like that. But if you're doing something like a cinematic movie or something like that, then you want to follow that 180 rule whenever it comes to your shutter, and you want to, pretty much double your frame rate. Like right now I got 24 frames a second. I pretty much would want to double that to, to 1/50th. And of course, if you have your frame rate as 60 frames per second, then you want to go ahead and double that to 120. And of course, if you are doing 120 frames per second, it'll be 2/50th. So that's how you do the 180 rule with that. This is actually a really good filter. I like this filter, especially if you're on a budget. I suggest you get this filter. And I also would suggest you buy a filter that is bigger than the lens that you own. Let's say at least get a filter that is a 77 or an 82, because you can end up buying step-up rings to pretty much get it to fit your camera. But if you decide you want to go ahead and buy the $20 variable ND filter that K&F have, I mean, it's okay, but I would suggest you go ahead and get the one that actually fit the size of your lens. Because if you get the real big one and then use step-up rings for that, then you're gonna have light leaks come in and you're gonna get reflection. So I highly recommend you not do that. If you get the one that actually fit the lens, you'll have less chances of having any light leaks or reflection or anything like that. Okay, let's then go ahead and answer some common questions that you may have about this ND filter. Does it have any light leaks with it? No. It doesn't have any light leak issues. Does it have any reflection issues? No, I have not had any reflection issues, and I've had this for probably about for a few months now, and I've done several music videos and also a wedding with it. Now, I did have one time I did have a reflection issue with it, but that was just one time, and that was the only time I've ever seen any reflection with it. Since then, I've never had no issues with it. It didn't reflect or anything like that. My final thought of the K&F concept: if you want a budget, I recommend this $60 one. It's a great variable ND filter. I haven't had any problems with it. It looks great. The quality that you're getting out of your lens, even with this ND filter, is fantastic. So now there are also better ones out there, like say the Tiffin and also the Peter McKinnon one, which I heard great things about that. The Tiffin one, Edgertech's going to talk about that ND filter and his thoughts about that one. But anyways, that's all I have. Let's go ahead and switch it over to Edgertech now.
Hey, what is up guys, I'm Edgertech, and today I'm going to be telling you guys why it is very important to use an ND filter. So if you guys don't know what an ND filter is, it's a neutral density filter. It's basically like sunglasses for your lens. So with an ND, you can shoot at wide open without changing your shutter speed. For example, if you shoot at 24 frames per second, you're going to want to keep your shutter at 1/50th. And if you shoot at 60 frames, you're going to want to keep your shutter at 1/120th, just like James said. And this is going to give you the proper film cinematic look. Also, for example, right here I have the Sigma 18-35 lens with a speed booster, and all this combined is equals to like a 1.2 aperture, which is extremely wide, especially for shooting outdoors. And shooting wide open without an ND is pretty much impossible. I mean, you could, but you're gonna break your shutter speed rule, and also you're not gonna get that cinematic look anymore. Of course, there's a lot of NDs out there in the market, but you have to be very careful which one you choose. For example, there are some $20 NDs, but those are simply not good enough. And if you own a high quality lens, for example like this Sigma lens, it makes no sense to put on a cheap ND, and that's also just going to affect the sharpness of the lens. And NDs also tend to give you more vignette and also shift in colors. And right here I have the Tiffin 72mm, but Tiffin makes them for any lens size, and I got this one for $150, and I have to say I am very impressed. Let me show you guys why. Alright guys, so now that I talked about the most important things about this ND filter, now let's talk about my experience while using this ND filter, what I like and also what I don't like about it, since there are some few things that I do like and also some few things that I don't like about it. But most of the things are mainly things I like about it. There aren't really things that I don't like about it, because before I even bought it, I did a lot of research on YouTube to see if it was the perfect ND filter for me. And you know, I decided to choose this one since there are a lot of ND filters out there in the market, but I was looking very carefully because a lot of ND filters out there are really cheap, like $20 to $30, but those aren't simply not good enough. You know, the sharpness is not good. Also, vignetting and all that stuff is terrible on those type of cheap ND filters. But if you guys want something decent, then get the one that James has, or this one right here. So this is, like I said, it's the Tiffin. This is the 72mm one, and I have to say I really like it so far. I've been using it with my Sigma 18-35, and I have to say I'm very impressed. And especially since the Sigma 18-35 goes all the way to 1.8, and then with the speed booster you add like an extra stop of light, so the lens is like a 1.2 aperture, it equals to a 1.2. So let me show you guys. As you see, it goes to 1.2, so that's pretty wide. and shooting at 1.2 in daylight is almost impossible without an ND filter, so that is why I recommend this one. Alright, so right now I'm shooting in 4K at 24 frames per second, and my shutter speed is set to 1/50th of a second, and then my aperture is wide open, so it's at 1.2. And as you can see right now, my image is overexposed. You can't even see nothing. It's pretty much wide. And then when I put on the ND filter, as you can see, this makes a huge difference. So now I have that shallower depth of field, and my shutter speed is still set at 1/50th of a second, still shooting in wide open. And as you can see, the image is way better now. It's not overexposed or underexposed. It's the perfect. And then you can adjust it depending if it's brighter. You can adjust it here on the ND filter, since this is a variable ND filter. Alright guys, so right now I still have the ND filter on, but when I take it off, as you can see, let's say if you didn't have an ND filter, what you would do in this case is if you still want to shoot very wide open at 1.2 or let's say at 1.8, the only option you have is to bump up your shutter speed way up high. So let me bump it up way up high. So right now it's 1600 shutter speed, and as you can see, the image still looks great, but now the motion is not going to look cinematic anymore. So it's not going to have that cinematic fluid motion feel. So your motion, as you can see, is pretty fast. You can't even tell. Yep, it's way too fast, and it's pretty much unusable if you want to get that cinematic look in your videos. And this is where an ND filter comes in handy. Yeah, the things I like about this ND filter is the sharpness is almost pretty much the same. There's little to no loss in sharpness, which I really like, and that was something that I was looking for in ND filters, since a lot of, like I said, a lot of ND filters out there just take away the sharpness of the lens. And especially if you own like a really good glass like this one, for example the Sigma 18-35 or the Tamron, like the one that James has, these two lenses are really sharp, and to keep the sharpness there, you have to get a good decent ND filter. So that is why I don't recommend you guys buying cheap ND filters. Do not cheap out on ND filters, guys, because that is as important as the lens. So it makes no sense to put on a cheap $20 ND filter on a like $800 glass. So that's the thing I like about it. Now, a thing that I kind of didn't like about it is that say if you are shooting all the way wide open, like a 1.2 or 1.8, if you twist this ring all the way, if you pass the maximum or the minimum, you'll get a crazy, like the image just looks terrible. Like it doesn't look good at all. So that's the reason why on the instructional manual book of the ND filter, it tells you to not go past the maximum or the minimum, because you will get a lot of like nasty footage. I'll show you guys some examples what I mean right here. And so yeah, that's the little thing I didn't like about it, but overall this ND filter is really good. So that little issue doesn't bother me at all, because I almost never go past the maximum or the minimum points. So yeah, so if you guys want a decent ND filter for under $200, then I highly recommend this one. But if you want a budget one, one that's almost the same as this one, then get the one that James has. That one is also pretty good. And yeah guys, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like. Also let me know down below in the comments what kind of ND filter you use, and also if you guys have any ND filter recommendations, drop them down below in the comments. I would love to know what ND filter you guys are using. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.